Hey everybody, it's been like a couple of years or so since I previously made a video about replacing the batteries in your cordless phone. So anyways, I got this Union DEC 1560 cordless phone, and we'll do a battery swap in it. Now some phones out there actually allow you to just swap out the cells, such as, let's say, Panasonic cordless phones, but phones like these, they have a battery pack like this, as you can see. This is an old worn out nickel cadmium battery. As you can see, the phone is dead. Truth is, got it from a thrift store, so that way I have a second handset. There's my existing phone. I did the battery swap in this one back in, I believe, 2011, maybe 2012, and it still works just fine, not a problem. Used Rayovac batteries and works fabulous. Now you can actually go on Amazon and purchase battery packs for relatively cheap prices, and a lot of times they're pretty decent sales. The truth is, half the time you don't know what you're getting. And let's say if you're in a hurry and want to get this done really fast, and you happen to have some skills with soldering, you can just make your own pack. So basically, you're going to need some replacement batteries, pretty obvious. You're going to need the old pack out of your cordless phone so you can use the hookup leads. You're going to need a soldering iron, some solder, such as this. You'll probably need some solder flux too, some sandpaper, and some electrical tape and possibly hot glue. Yeah, so quite a few things. It depends on how you want to rig up your cells into a pack. It just depends. But basically, I want to start out by disassembling the original battery pack, and I prefer you do this on a dead battery pack, because if batteries have a charge and you accidentally short out things, you'll of course short out the batteries, and that won't be too good. But this pack here is completely dead. First thing you gotta do is slice open the pack. Now it's funny, it tells you, usually they'll tell you not to slice open the pack. It really depends. Some packs say that, some don't. That's referring to the actual battery cells, not really the pack itself. They'll try to tell you that it's not user serviceable and all this and all that. But truth is, you can service this pack by more or less making your own replacement. Yes, I tend to talk a lot in videos, but so let's go and get started. And obviously be careful when you're handling knives. All we're doing here is slicing this plastic cover. That should be enough to do it. Funny thing is, it's been so long since I did the original tutorial, so I'm not sure how far in depth I went with doing the replacement. That was only a 3-cell pack. This is only a 2-cell pack, so things are a little bit easier. So anyways, here is what the pack looks like with the plastic taken loose. We got some more disassembly to do here. So I've got a knife yet again, because we have some tape to cut. Try to undo all this stuff here. And basically the way they got this pack configured is they got the positive up here, the negative down here, and a jumper wire going from this side over to this side. I tend to do things a little bit different, which I'll show you in just a moment. But yeah, it's fun. They got this little bitty wire. It's a tiny thing too. a little bitty wire going between this cell and this cell. So basically, the positive of this cell going to the negative of that cell. And as you can see, I just popped it right loose because we're not going to need that anymore. Go ahead and pull back all this material here. And give me some snips. A pair of scissors would probably work for this. The wire's so thin. I'm going to try to save these tabs to possibly use them later. This here ain't so worried about. It's the tabs that the wires are actually soldered to that I'm most worried about. Try to save at least some parts of them. Going to cut this wire off. That way we have some metal to work with. And last but not least, we're going to pull this off. So you guys can probably see why it's important to do this on a discharged pack, because you can see I practically touched the scissors from positive to negative in part of the step. If your cells have any charge left on them, you want to be very careful about this. But now we have this, the connector leads. So that way we can go ahead and move on to the next step. Okay, if you haven't done so already, go ahead and plug in your soldering iron so I can start heating up. But now we're going to start the next step. That is soldering together a new battery pack. First I'm going to talk about getting the correct batteries. These Uniden DEC 1560 phones use two AA cells. They originally had 500 milliamp nickel cadmiums. Anyways, there's the original label. 500 milliamps. Milliamp hours, that's the capacity. And these here are Rayovac nickel metal hydride 1400 milliamp hour batteries, or 1600, it really depends. These are the cheaper end Rayovac batteries that are actually not labeled in terms of capacity. They have no capacity stated on them anywhere whatsoever. But doing some research online has concluded that these are 1400 milliamp hour batteries. And these are low self-discharge cells, meaning they do not lose charge quickly over time. As you can see, the little ad on the back of the box tells you that, versus like a standard nickel metal hydride cell. The older nickel metal hydride cells will discharge pretty fast, and pretty much explains why a lot of these older phones had nickel cadmium batteries, because they didn't self-discharge nearly as fast. But this newer technology is a lot better. Because think about it, your phone is sitting, not being used all the time, so it's important for those cells to hold a charge. Now the reason why I like these particular cells here, these Rayovac 1400s, is they're actually pretty slim for a AA size battery. You see higher end rechargeables such as, like let's say a Rayovac Recharge Plus 2400 milliamp battery is a little bit thicker than these, so a bit more tight. Now I'm sure if you was to use 2400 milliamp hour batteries in your phone, it would last for a long time. Think about it. This phone originally had a 500 milliamp hour battery, and you're putting in a 1400. My phone lasts for 2 weeks off the charger with these kinds of batteries in it. So anyways, that being said, now that you know, we'll go ahead and open up this pack of batteries. So let's say you're just wanting to do a single cordless phone and you're looking for a USB charger. You can buy at Walmart the Rayovac USB charger and get 2 cells. That way you don't have 2 extra cells laying around that you don't need. In my case, I'm doing this second handset and my grandpa's phone, which is the same exact thing. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to orient these batteries like this. So first thing I'm going to do is run some tape down the side of one, some electrical tape. And when working with this electrical tape, try to use some scissors to cut it. Don't just pull it off because it gets messy when you do that. Try to get the perfect size here. Yeah, my tutorials aren't the best because sometimes you can't see exactly what I'm doing at all times. I'm going to line this tape along this side of the cell. What I'm going to do now is try to line this here up with the bottom of this cell. Now if we actually put them together, here's where you're going to need the sandpaper. Now the good thing with these Rayovacs is the negative side of the battery is rough. Has a rough texture to it. It's not really smooth. It's kind of got a little bit of rough texture to it. That'll help the solder stick when soldering the wires to the cells. But if you look here, yeah, it's sort of rough, but not very rough. So what we'll do is we're going to take both these cells and run the positive terminals against the sandpaper just a little bit, just to roughen them up just a tidbit. We got just a little bit of a rough texture on the button there. That's all we need. Do the same thing to the other side. This way the solder will stick better to the metal of the cell. Next step would be to go ahead and use some tape to hold these cells together. Now this isn't going to be the permanent taping. It's just going to be something to hold them together. The good news here is we're only working with 2 cells, so this is going to be a lot easier. If you go back to my previous tutorial where I was working with 3 cells, trying to keep those all together was a bit rough. Wasn't the easiest thing, I can definitely say. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to tape these together. And of course, not expecting it to be real spectacular or anything. And of course, we're not being held together very tightly either, so anyways. Now the cells are actually being held together. Okay, here's the fun part. Soldering everything together. That's going to be the fun part. Because sometimes the solder doesn't want to cooperate. The thing you got to be careful with is you don't want to keep your soldering iron on these cells for too long because you will easily overheat them. That's something you don't want to do. Especially when it's a brand new set of cells like this. This is a 20 watt soldering iron, so see, it looks like the solder doesn't really want to stick. I like the mid is doing better than what it has done in the past, so anyways, I'm going to grab some needle nose pliers. Okay, grab some needle nose pliers. Because I'm going to use them to hold a piece of jumper wire. Now I'm going to stick between here and here. So anyways, what I used was some old telephone switchboard wiring. It's perfect for this kind of application. So if I don't give everything in the video, I'm sorry, but I gotta use both my hands at this moment. Of course, I figured it'd fall over. General idea here is we have something holding the little piece of metal on the pack now, so it's a little easier to work with. That's great. Alright, it's time to stop putting the soldering iron on that cell. Like I mentioned, I can't keep it on there too long. You gotta be very careful about that. Now this is the process of going back and forth between cell to cell to get everything soldered up really good. So back and forth, pretty much. To be honest with you guys, I think these newer Rayovac cells are easier to work with than the older ones. Anyways, got that all soldered together. Now it's got to make sure it's on there good. That's what matters. Make sure that solder actually stuck to the cells. The last thing you want to have is solder breaking loose after you already got your pack together. But everything here appears to be good and secure. Don't see any problems whatsoever. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to test this with a digital multimeter and see if we're getting voltage on the positive and negative terminals of the cell, of the pack. Now of course the pack's not going to want to stand up on its own anymore, so I got to do this by hand. What I'll do is I'll stick the multimeter in view of the camera. Should get around 2.5 volts or so. As you see, we got a connection. Now here comes the final step. And this step will probably have something available to sort of stand up the cells. Try to hold them up. It's gonna be tricky because now we got to solder the leads onto the cell pack. I can go move this out of the way since we're done with it for the time being. Slide this over in view. Okay, what it is, I took an old cell and stuck it in between here and here. Something to hold this up. So anyway, it's going to do something pretty close to what I did before. Go ahead and apply some solder to the tops of the cells. Don't need a whole lot, just a blob. Because again, we don't want to overheat our cells. Okay, got some solder applied to the tops of the cells. We don't need a lot. All we need is just enough to make a good connection. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut this off. I could probably desolder it. Matter of fact, I think I'll give that a try before I cut anything. So that way this way I don't have to re-tin the wire. So now we got just a little bitty wire to work with. Because all we got to touch, at least with this red wire, is that small little button top over here. I'm going to solder this in place. Pack's wanting to fall over, as always. I had to come back to that side. I'm going to remove this metal tab from this side too. We actually don't need the tab, so I'll just get rid of them. Make matters a whole lot easier. Cell's falling over. What I definitely need is a miniature vise to hold things. That's part of my problem. Okay, now that's soldered into place. We'll return back to the positive lead and try to smoothen that out a little bit. Yeah, popped right off in the process. And pack's trying to fall over. Trying to fall over, trying to fall over, trying to fall over. Wait a minute. On that side, don't want to get too hot. Yeah, this is lengthy, but this is the process. Because we cannot overheat these cells. That's why I strongly encourage, if you do not have any solder experience, then just go on Amazon and buy you a replacement battery pack. Okay, now everything is soldered together. I'm going to go ahead and plug in the hot glue gun just for a moment. Apply a couple of blobs of hot glue to hold things together very good. So we're going to unplug the soldering iron and plug in the hot glue gun. We're going to apply some hot glue to the needed areas. Don't need a whole lot, just a little bit. Now I want to advise you ahead of time, if you're just like following me in this video, doing your own battery pack. Your replacement pack is going to be very tight fitting in the phone. So be careful how you tape everything together or hot glue things together, because you don't have a whole lot of work space to deal with. Basically what I'm doing, so you can see what I'm doing here, is I am applying a small drip of glue to this side over here and this side over here, and I'm going to flip the cell pack over, hold it by the edge so you don't get yourself burnt by the hot glue. Put another little drip of glue right about there, smooth it out, and the same for right here. Okay, we are done with the hot glue gun. Here are the final steps. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull these two wires here down into this little crack. You can't go too far, just to be warned. We're going to take some tape and wrap it around the cells at that area. Cut a decent amount of tape off, and then we'll deal with that. Of course, this is like it's gonna look a little rough because obviously it's a homemade battery pack. Just fold everything together right about here, so I have enough tape to cover things right there, and then just fold it all together. Kind of like wrapping a gift. And of course I'm not very good at wrapping gifts either, so it's definitely not going to look the neatest. Yeah, trust me, I bought my parents a sound bar for Christmas, and wrapping it was a definite pleasure. That was a rough looking present. So anyways, there's a homemade battery pack. And to finalize everything, we're going to test the pack in the phone. And you can see we have life. It says welcome. It shows that we have 2/3 of battery life remaining. Now, of course, you can pretty much take these cordless phone indicators like a grain of salt, because they're never real accurate. With these batteries, it'll say it's only got 1/3 of life remaining for like a week before the battery actually goes dead. And just as an example here, we are trying to sandwich this all together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rip this off. This padding here, we don't need that. It's so tight in this, inside this thing. Anyways. Okay, so basically what I do here is I had to take the tape off the ends, because it's so tight inside this phone. Anyways, got it plugged in and everything. Anyways, that's how you can redo the battery pack on your cordless phone. Any questions or comments? Feel free to ask, and thanks for watching.